Welcome back to this week's episode of I'm Just Saying Sports Talk. Today we're going to talk about, can professional athletes take a political stance? We're going to talk about athletes and politics. And so we have one of our periodic series where we're going to come up with 10 questions. So this is 10 questions that we're going to discuss, and it's for you, the viewer, to ponder and leave your comments and your thoughts. So question number one. Can an athlete take a political stance publicly? What are your thoughts, Kendrick, on that?
Athletes have in the past, and they will continue to do so. I don't see there being anything wrong with them doing that.
But can they? The question is, can they?
If they're willing to, in certain instances, if they're willing to damage their professional career. So I'd say yes, because we treat athletes as if they're superheroes and they're non-human.
Okay.
But they live in our communities too. So they should have a voice as well.
Okay. So can, meaning, yes, you can. You have free will. You can do whatever you like.
That's right.
They athletes, they have a job. They have a role in society.
Yep.
They're affected by the political climate just as much as anyone else. A lot of times we think they may be shielded to a certain extent by wealth and fame, but then they're exposed to other elements also.
That we may not be exposed to.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about an athlete, can they? And we're talking about they representing a team, and they may be representing a brand. You're saying even with all that, they should be able to take a public stance on a political issue, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I agree with that. I don't think taking a job, whether it's being part of a professional sports organization or not, removes your right to express your political view.
Exactly.
So that's the I'm Just Saying Sports Talk take on that. So question number 2 in our 10 question discussion is, what are the safe causes? Because we know that all political issues are not equal. So for a professional athlete, would you say there are safe causes that they can take up, and then some they get ridiculed for or get placed in a muzzle is placed over their mouth? Just for an example, when it comes to animal rights issues, which can become political when you take in what the laws may have on it, it seems like everybody can agree to support animals. Hey, no animal abuse, dog fighting, cockfighting, or neglect, or whatever. So it seems like all the sponsors agree, right?
Yep.
None of the professional teams give an athlete any kind of grief behind supporting animal rights, right?
Yeah, nobody.
Women's rights. We can probably safely say that women's rights are pretty safe cause to support women. No one ever, gives an organization grief behind the support of women's rights, and rightfully so, and all those things. When you start talking about, so those are things you probably, as an athlete, can, and the right to good health.
Yeah.
When we talk about cancer, lupus,
heart disease,
diabetes. So those issues are political too, because when we talk about the Affordable Health Care Act and all those things, they're politicized in certain ways. But you don't really get into a lot of trouble when it talks about the right to good health and well-being, right? So, but, we can probably go to, when you get to gun rights. Could an athlete talk about the right to bear arms? That might be a mixed bag. So the point I'm making is I don't think all rights and all political issues are treated evenly.
Yeah, they're not.
I think there are some things that an athlete can speak on without any repercussion, and then there's other things. Now, probably some more sketchy things are like, you know, immigration,
Yeah.
immigration or police brutality. So when you start talking about those things, or even things like religion, you know, that seems less disruptive than a lot of times the human rights issues, right?
Yeah.
So when you start talking about immigration, depending on who it's coming from, there might be some backlash. When you start talking about police brutality,
Yeah.
depending on who it's coming from and what they're trying to say and how they go about it, there might be some backlash. So, you know, you look at Colin Kaepernick. That causes in direct conflict with how the NFL is funded. You know,
By the government.
By
Yeah, right.
you know, yeah, when you know, so when you don't stand and they put a lot of money into having the teams come out and stand for the national anthem. You know, it's a concerted effort. You know, the American flag is pasted on the helmets. It's a whole, you know, the jets fly over, so it's in a direct conflict with their interest as an organization. So I think some of these other ones are not. So, but the question is this. This is the next question. Is it enough for an athlete, question number 3, to make a disclaimer? Can they say, this is my personal feeling, not that of the organization that I represent, not that of the Nike sponsorship or whatever endorsement I may have or whatever brand of drink or snack that I'm representing? Is it enough for them to say, hey, FYI, this is Damon's opinion.
Yeah.
I am not in the capacity representing any team or any sponsor. You think that's enough?
I do. And the reason why I say that is just because an individual have their own thoughts and their beliefs does not mean that that individual cannot perform the task that's been given to them. So, they can come out outright and say, hey, I don't want to, I don't believe in some of the things that my organization believe in. These are my beliefs and only mine.